welcome back to the end of Pirate Adventures. We last finished the campaign, and now we're here for questions, where these lovely players of mine get to ask me about pondering things on their mind. So I guess I hand over to you guys.
So this might be a bit of a callback, but the prison that we first found Alwyn in, where we all infiltrated with guards and stuff, we didn't really search much of it. Was there anything in there that we missed? Was anything like other people or anything else interesting that was there?
So yes, 2 counts. Actually, the whole Shanty Island, that place, that prison, is actually a massive mining operation done by Cleric, where he's putting the prisoners to community service to dig into the mines, because he knew, and you kind of got like a vision later on, but he knew in the depths of that mine was Estiedieu's crown.
Right.
So there was a path, if you carried on exploring, that you would actually find Estiedieu's crown, and that would have been one
wow.
of your first artifacts to be like
That'd
this
been a pretty
crazy
powerful
thing
one
that
early
you.
on.
Yeah, very powerful early on. Very, oh god, what's this? Crazy stuff, kind of, that happened. The other thing, there was like general stuff like mixed around. There were other prisoners you could have met, like other NPCs. Don't need to go into like huge detail on that, but the main thing that entire thing was for, I wanted the plot point of Bloodbeard was going to die, and you may have found the crown. Because if you found the crown, and you left, you would have had a vision through the crown of Bloodbeard's death. Whereas because you guys kind of ended up staying for it and you didn't find the crown, you could kind of just watch and witness, and then you also got to meet Cleric, which was kind of good because it kind of just infused that initial bit. But yeah, that mine, you did explore quite a bit of it, but the other section was kind of where you could have gone deeper and delved into the part where, oh, that's where the crown was.
So I guess the alarm and everything was like fated to an extent, because I know that there were some roles that we had at the time that we felt like we failed. That felt like we were setting off alarms and things were going to come and bite us in the ass. But that was kind of a fated moment, I guess.
So yes and no. So my initial plan was there will be an alarm, but it won't be until after you've left.
Sure.
But then there were like skill checks and other such things that if those were to happen, then the alarm would go off anyway. And it was kind of like who was making the most noise and how that would impact. Also, I was rolling on how well the Bloodbeard was doing on the other side of the operation, and he didn't do very well. The dice decided.
Could we have gone on that side of could we have gone along on Bloodbeard's mission? Like, were we always going to do the mine? Effectively?
Well, if you guys were like adamant on helping Bloodbeard, I would have taken you to that bit first. I mean, I didn't have the maps prepped or anything, but I probably would have just set something up and then gone, right, okay, so you guys are going in with Bloodbeard, and then it would have been a team operation to see how that would have gone before those alarms went off. But then, yeah, to then come back to the prison to get your people out, other people out. Because that's the other thing that Bloodbeard wanted to do there. He wanted to free as many prisoners as possible, fuck up Kreleg's operation, and find out what he was digging for.
And sticking on a similar Alwyn theme, so we got the blue rot from adventuring and visiting effectively like a church. It was like a temple underwater that Tim found. That we ended up
There was
having.
a temple underwater, yeah.
Yeah, that we ended up having a bunch of the drowned come out and get us. would that have been a thing we would have been able to explore, and like what was there? And obviously that killed a lot of us, or a bunch of us. So
Yes,
that was
it did kill a lot of you. So Blue Rot and the Drowned. So the Drowned was like the initial disease of Blue Rot, and it came about initially because of the first flood, where people got into this weird semi-state of trying to survive off seawater, and while bodies were trying to adapt and evolve over time, it failed, and they ended up as these Blue Rock creatures, as the Drowned. So this temple, which before flood, the world before flood, was actually kind of central to the map. When flood, like the waves burst forth and cracked and pushed everything out, this temple got pushed back. So this used to be a mage's temple. You could have explored it, but it would have been very difficult to survive the drowned situation down there. I think if you came back at the level you guys finished or were near finishing at, you could probably have gotten away with exploring it quite easily. But at that level, yeah, it was going to be a toughie. It was one of those things I had in my brain as kind of like a random encounter that would happen at some point, and where you were positioned on the map, it made the most sense to be there.
sure.
Also, with Tim basically being like, "Yeah, I want to dive further, see what's down there," I was like, "Okay."
Makes sense.
Fair enough. So,
What was
there
there?
was a
Was there anything there? Just out of
It's a lot of like, I think, when you went on the massive tortoise's back, the
Mm.
like massive dragon tortoise's back. So, like, there was a lot of like cultural references to the world before. What you would have found there is a lot of cultural references to the time before. You would have also found like a few like old spell books that have been decayed and that kind of thing, because it was a mage's tower. There's probably quite a bit of like different information about the culture pre-flood, and to the point where you'd kind of have a decent enough understanding of everything there, that maybe when you came to the dragon turtle stuff, you would have been a bit more like, oh, that's from there and this is from here and XYZ. Because it's all like the world before is kind of based off of the other world I have in my head from the book I wrote. So that's all kind of in the same space. So it's all related to that. So all the cultural references would have been related to that. So it's more of an Easter eggy kind of thing, but that's what you would have found. Also, I would have chucked in some treasure in there, because
Why not?
when you got that far, why wouldn't I?
tried it.
So,
No, not the Trident.
So obviously, Umbra and Tim were up to a lot of dodgy stuff. But one thing, especially with Umbra, we were wondering about is how in the world he got Tree Lifter's arms to put on Temerin. Because that's a hard thing to do, considering Tree Lifter's, might.
So, Tree Lifter was bound.
He was thrown in the brig because he tried to throw Vaela off the ship.
Yeah. So through some means, can't quite place my finger on right now, but if I'm remembering correctly, I believe there was some arcane uses to make sure that they were held in place, and then he proceeded to remove each limb, if I'm correct.
So he didn't just get the arms then?
Yeah, and I think he either poisoned him, and that's how Tree Lifter died, because I'm pretty sure Tree Lifter died by Umbra's hand, if I'm remembering correctly.
Right.
And then took the arms, because everything goes to the morgue, which is Umbra. So Umbra gets all the bodies. But yeah, I'm pretty sure death by Umbra is how that happened.
I think some more of that as well, because I think this is how we found out Umbra was a changeling. So we were meant
that
to.
Early on?
We were meant to. Tree Lifter got put in the brig, got killed by Tim and Umbra, but Grizion only wanted to give them a burial at sea and didn't want to give the body over to Umbra.
Hmm.
So to do that, Umbra stashed Treelifter's body in the morgue and changed into Treelifter's body so that so Umbra could be thrown
Yes,
overboard.
yeah.
Oh,
And
I
then
see.
Umbra
then
was
try and
thrown
get back on the
overboard.
boat.
He then swam under. Tim met him at the bottom of the boat in a dinghy to help him up. And then when he got up there, that's when you found out he was a changeling because I think he had to transform back, but none of his clothes were right, and he wasn't in the right visage. I think his mask wasn't.
I think Tim wasn't prepared for the change either, and so it was like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
what is this?"
Right.
Yeah, because for some reason, even though they were in cahoots, Umbra didn't reveal anything to Tim. He didn't tell Tim anything. He was just like, "Hey, just meet me here and do this stuff, okay?" And Tim was like, "Okay." They're shenanigans, man. Weeks of shenanigans. Ridiculous. Good fun, though.
And what other shady stuff did you have them, or did you allow them to get away with?
Oh, sweet Jesus. So, the amount of shady chat that went on. So they, 90% of the reason that the mutiny worked is because them behind the scenes doing a bunch of, like, fear and threatening amongst the crew. For one. For another thing, Umbra, every time he had the opportunity, would steal materials. Not like from you specifically, but anytime there was like bounty or you were on an island or like Joylif's crystal, for example, he'd literally anything he would swipe before anyone would be able to take a look at it if possible. Umbra as well as that. Just he would. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, who had the bag of tricks? Gruzio had the bag of tricks. When he had
I
the
had the bag of tricks.
yeah,
Because you had the bag.
you gave it to Umbra for a while, and I'm pretty sure it's in one of the episodes or one of the
I don't think he
sessions.
gave it
Used
to him,
for the
but I
brain
think
shenanigans.
yeah, no, I don't think
Yeah.
no, I don't think he gave it to him, but I think he like donated an animal
Yes,
so he didn't. So Grazil still had the bag, but he would give Umbra an animal.
yeah. So he gave Umbra an animal. Um, that animal got tortured, like straight up tortured, like kept alive, checking brain functionality and all that kind of thing. Every dead body that the captain wanted to be kept nice, that didn't happen. Umbra experimented on every single body. The main...
Including Bloodbeard.
No, he never got to touch Bloodbeard.
Okay.
That's the
Bloodbeard was
only
like
one he never
special
got to
locked
touch, I
away
think.
kind of thing, though, wasn't he?
Because
He was-
you kept Bloodbeard in a specific barrel in the doctor's office away from the morgue, and that's why Umbra never quite got to him. He did try at one point, but he didn't get to him. And I'm just trying to think if there's any other shady shit. I mean, the religious propaganda was redonkulous. That poor boy.
The boy.
Oh my god.
Does the boy have a
the
name?
boy.
Does the boy have a name?
The boy. I think the boy does have a name. Hold on.
Because we always just refer to him as the boy.
Yeah, no, the boy does have a name. Where's my... I think I named him Dill. Like, it was a really stupid, short name, but then no one ever asked it.
So the next one. So how did Tasker end up with with the trident? Probably really powerful artifact.
Really
She
powerful.
goes, oh, I've just got one. I've just got it.
Yeah.
And also gave
So-
it up. So here you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so Tasker, Louise's character. Tasker was a treasure hunter by nature, diver.
Right.
She had a thing going with some like water spirits, and because she didn't really come back to play, we didn't really explore it. But I had all the water spirits, and she was with a water spirit. Spirits of the sea. There you go. So I had spirits of the sea. Hers was the sea serpent, maybe, and because Joe Neptia no longer controlled the seas, more natural spirits became part of the seas. That's kind of what we discussed. And hers was she was talking to these spirits, and kind of her whole thing, if she was going to be more involved, was going to be like finding these spirits and unlocking their like strength and power, because she found the sea serpent, and that's how she gained some of her powers, some of her capabilities, is by freeing this being and kind of sharing in nature's strength. So maybe guiding her, they were searching for a spirit, and they found the sentient trident because it was sentient. Technically, there's something in there. So the trident, equally, and it wasn't easy for Tasker to get in there, but she found a way through being a treasure hunter, managed to get around the booby traps, all that kind of thing, and find the location thanks to who may be the sea serpent. But the trident was buried with a long lost king. But it wasn't buried where the king died. And the king wasn't buried where everyone thought he was buried. So I had a Atlantis-esque city in the North Sea kind of prepared. But the burial site for the king, and you would have had to go to the city first to go like, oh, the king's buried here. He was actually buried in the South Sea. So she found it partially through chance, partially through it made sense, because while following these spirits, she found a sentient being of power. And while retrieving the trident, who maybe, the sea spirit, understanding what it is, told her to go north, find help, kind of find you guys, essentially. And that's why she found you. And Tasker has absolutely no care or want for power, so she was quite happy to hand it over.
A funny thing that we all felt, or at least was strange, is that when we met Tasker, when she handed over the trident, we said, "Oh, set up a meetup at the wreckage for us." And we ended up going through the Astral Sea, which was supposed to be the fastest route. How did Tasker actually beat us to the wreckage when we went the faster route?
Yeah, so you went the faster route by boat. So I had this in my head because I wanted, because the player, please, wasn't always going to be able to play like when we were going to be able to play, so it was going to be a drop in, drop out situation. So I had in my head, anytime she wants to turn up, she'll be able to, because you maybe, being the sea serpent, would be able to carry her through the ocean at great speed. So faster than almost fast travel kind of thing in a video game is kind of what I'm thinking. Like what you would take a week to do by ocean, she would take half a day. Like that's the kind of thing I was thinking. Like she would speed through basically in a spectral body of a serpent, being shot through the water like it's a train. I had in my head, because I was like, I wanted to be able to play, and I don't want, if you're just randomly somewhere else on the map, for her to, oh, I'm here, surprise. So I thought, well, that's quite a good way to just shoot her there from wherever she is.
Speaking of artifacts, how did No-Eye Bill get his artifact, considering he was already blind before he got it?
No-Eyed Bill is a really interesting case. So No-Eyed Bill actually won it gambling. The globe hasn't been where it was put for a very long time, and it's kind of passed hands constantly. No one really understanding what it is. Everyone thinking it's a cursed item, and being that this person thought it was a cursed item, just went, okay, I'll put this in with my bet. I don't care if I lose it. They lost it to Bill. Bill was probably the first being to look at it and go, I'm going to check this out. Because everyone else who was willing to attempt to attune to it would just ended up blind.
Sure.
Fair. Sort of throughout the campaign, we kind of got alluded to things like mother and brother and father and all whatever else is done, whatever this sort of messed up shadow family.
Huge
What
creatures.
I think, well, yeah, they're these huge, massive creatures. Like, who are they? Are they actually tangible things, or are they just like?
Yes, they are tangible things. So there is no father. I
Okay,
don't think I mentioned father. I'm hoping I didn't mention father because there is no father.
No.
Joe Neptune is mother.
that makes sense. Yeah, I think that one was
The Kraken in the central spire, the shadowy spire that's currently banished and trapped.
Mm.
That's a Kraken, by the way, just so you know. That was Big Brother, aka the eldest. That's her first child. Then she also had the Dragon Turtle, her other child. Like, all the big, monstrous titans of the ocean were her children, essentially.
Okay.
And that's how they kind of came to be, and they've aged with time like she has, and they've grown bigger and bigger and bigger.
But they were very
So-
attached to the like mother was telling me to do this.
Yeah, so as she's been gaining power and influence, she's been whispering more in creatures' ears. So one thing that actually happened in one of the first few sessions is you were attacked by underwater goblin folk. And nobody knew goblinoid, and I knew I made a mistake that day, but they were saying that Mother said to destroy them. Mother said prepare for war. Because that's what she's been doing, essentially. She's been trying to get all the creatures of the ocean to rile up and defeat anyone that could be consequentially dangerous to her plans. But the Kraken is trapped in a shadow prison, so unfortunately he couldn't really do much.
Yeah, that would have been a crazy fight.
Yeah, I don't think we would have been able to fight a Kraken. There's no, because I don't think, especially in the state we were in, because we had just fought something. I think we had just fought something. We fought the dragon, right?
Yeah.
The skeletal
In the
dragon
turtle,
at the
yeah.
time. So there's no way we would have been able to
Yeah.
take on a Kraken. Not a level 8 or 9 that we were at the time.
No.
No chance.
So that's the big creatures. Taking a bit of a change of pace and taking a look at one of the things that was taken from another realm of existence, and the Netherite. So Netherite was stolen by Locker from Grizel,
Mm-hmm.
and other shenanigans that Locker wanted from Grizel. But what was Locker doing with the Netherite?
Okay, this is like a little proud moment for me to just plagiarize this from you, Sonny, because you said to me Nabrite is a demon metal. So the relationship between Davy Jones and Locker is Jones used to be a goddess, so she feels she's above all of them. Davy is the devil, like the devil. He is controlling, in charge, far more powerful than Locker. Locker is the demon prince, but he's the little brother, right? Like, he is the one that is taking the shit out of, and Locker, deal with my shit souls. I don't want them, have them. I don't care about them anymore. So Locker is craving power, right? Locker wants to power grab from Davy for everything he's got. But he can't do that as he is now. When you first mentioned Bruzeal popping over, I put to you a scene of you going through a cosmic space and then landing on the deck of the ship. You heard a voice say, "Interesting." That was Locker. And the cosmic space you went through was the astral sea. He saw you go by, and he almost smelt this Navarite metal because it's demonic. It's of him, but it's not of him here. It's one of those things where it's like, game knows game kind of thing. Like, and from then there was a small. Oh, this is interesting. You've come from a different place. I'm intrigued by you. And since then, he was watching. When you took the Navarite from the staff, he was interested enough to intervene, and that's when he involved himself.
Right.
The Navarite, he was hoping, combined with another thing, which I think is the next question, so I'm going to kind of jump onto it. Star Creek's pistol is a pistol created from Davy himself, and it was stolen. And this pistol traps souls, making the owner, if they're a fiend, far more powerful. And he wanted to combine Star Creek's pistol and the Navarite so he could start gaining power exponentially until he was far more powerful than Davy.
Wow. Yeah, that's not a good combination.
No. So the reason, because I think the next question, what is the next question? It's why is...
No, that's something different. Yeah, because
Yeah.
the other one was
Well,
what?
so
Yeah, what is the
there's-
deal with
there's-
Stark? Why is the artifact not an
So
artifact?
there's many questions that spawn off
Yeah,
of
so
that. So,
with the Star Creek's pistol, the reason it's not an artifact is because it's not from Jones, it's from Davy. It's not
It's a
classified
similar
as
thing,
art-
but a different person, basically.
Yes, exactly. So it's not an artifact. The Rubik's Globe can pick it up because it's not its artifact. Yes, it's a powerful magic item, but it's not an artifact of Jones. Star Creek's pistol combined with Navarite, Locker was hoping it would no longer make him the Demon Prince, but in fact the Demon King. And he'd be able to take over the Nine Hells, invade the mortal realm, generally become ruler of everything.
so why
that
was Davy pissed off that Elizora had it then? If it was stolen, then returning it back to its rightful creator?
No. See, this is the thing. It was stolen off of Davy. Davy didn't make it. When you saw the tapestry of Joneptia, each of the artifacts was almost a piece of her. Like one was around her vocal cords, one was her mind, one was her arm, one was her other arm, one was her torso. The pistol was like taking Davy's hand, ripping it from him. He didn't choose to make that pistol. It was taken from him. And he pretty much vowed, being a lawful being, but he vowed if he were ever to see that pistol again, he'd take it back and kill anyone involved. Like,
Right.
that was just a straight up rule for him, out of pure vengeance and hatred. So yeah, I was literally like, when you rolled Davy, I was like, oh man, he's just gonna see red. There's not even gonna be talk. He's just gonna take that person, take the pistol, and throw you to the Nine Hells.
So this is a sort of shifting from this again. We toyed with this idea, but we never actually did it. But if Elizora had used Tsunami on the ship
In the Astral Sea.
to sort of, would it have actually done anything?
Well, yes, because if you use Tsunami, this was when you were trying to like push the ship forward, weren't you?
Yeah, we were
Yeah,
trying
like
to.
get a speed boost.
Yeah, we were. Was it? We had Gith and Mind Flayers and all sorts around us, and we were trying to get out of there to get out of the Astral
So
Sea.
yeah, because it magically creates the water, right? Tsunami like magically brings more water than there is there.
Yeah.
So it would have made the water, and that would have pushed you forwards. It would have pushed you forwards at the rate of the spell. And as well as that, while I would have said, because you're controlling it, you can kind of navigate it, it would have damaged the back end of the ship by, like, bludgeoning, constantly pushing it forwards. So, yes, it would have worked, but it depends on whether you were happy with that impact.
And spinning back to artifacts. So we've talked about the trident, how that was picked up, the globe. But what about like some of the other artifacts that potentially didn't encounter naturally? Where were they before shenanigans meant that people were picking them up and anyone could have found it instead of taking hundreds of years of research?
Okay, so a side quest, well, a quest I had in mind, which you didn't end up doing because you got the ghost ship, which was like a 1 in 20 chance, but there it was. If you stayed with Bloodbeard, if you continued the journey with him, you would have gone to an island. And that island would have had a lot of undead creatures. There would have been a graveyard. And the place where the skeletal scimitar was hidden was on that island. I'm trying to think. I think I did kind of flesh it out that it was protected by certain creatures. There was guardians there, and then you kind of went to like a catacombs situation, became a bit of a dungeon crawl. But generally, that's where you would have found, the scimitar. And I'm trying to remember the captain's name. Captain Crossbones?
Crenulus, was it? Crenulus Crossbones?
Crenulus Crossbones, that's it. Crenulus Crossbones. Great memory there, Sonny. Because he was buried with it, because he was very attached to that sword. In fact, you would have found him literally propped up in a chair, hugging the sword protectively. The minute you would have tried to take it, he would have then started attacking with it.
Which is why he turned up on our boat.
Yes.
Catherine.
The egg we
Because-
know, right? The egg was with the dragon people. The dragons.
The
That
egg
one.
was with the dragons because you guys carried on taking Bloodbeard to the funeral, so that was on the Dragon Spire. So the Dragon Spire was quite a cool one I had planned. Like,
Yeah, that was a shame we never
essentially
did
every
Purge.
level, you would face like different chromatic-based dragon issues. So at the bottom, you had a white dragon, and it was all like icy environmental stuff. And then like each layer would the environment would change.
That'd be cool. Bit
What-
like
Yeah, what level would have made sense for us to do that? Because it felt, I don't know about everyone
dragons
else,
are
but
hard, man.
at the time it felt that the Dragon Spire was not our fight at the time. It was definitely once we got more powerful thing.
Yeah, to me, you could have gone at it at probably level 6. Or maybe level 5 if you had a couple of the artifacts that I kind of had for you to get.
Sure.
But that's the thing, a lot of the things I had planned, it was like, well, if they have this and this, it's going to be a breeze. But the other thing is, like, each of those levels, you didn't have to necessarily face a dragon. It might have just been like, kobolds or puzzles, or like each layer was slightly different. The top, you had to face the embodiment of what was in the dragon egg, which was the Dragon King of old, which was a hybrid of a gold and a blue dragon, first of its kind. And what you would have had to face is, because gold dragons and silver dragons, they can transform into more humanoid versions of themselves. So I decided this one was going to be a dragonborn, and it was like a monk. And you had to face the drunken dragon master as they basically protected the egg. But what would happen is, when you defeated them, they would have bowed and then fizzled away into the actual egg itself, and that would have been your prize.
Very cool.
And what did the egg do?
So the egg was great. So the egg did a few different things. It allowed you to do like a lightning breath weapon and a fire breath weapon. And then on top of that, I think it was once per long rest, you could crack it open and call forth the spirit of the Dragon King to come aid you in battle.
Wow.
So you'd
Nice.
essentially summon. I think I was gonna like scale it to what level you were. So based on your level, adult, ancient, youngling, whatever, dragon kind of level to come aid you in battle. Because I wanted the artifacts to feel powerful, I wanted them to be like world-ending.
We're kind of touching this already, but this has got two parts to it. So the first one is, obviously some of these things had side effects. These artifacts, obviously the hag's bottle is cursed. We know the globe makes people blind. Did any of the others? Oh, and I don't know about the trident, but did any of the others have like negative side effects that like altered the person?
I mean, the
Because I think one
sentient
of them
thing was
made you
annoying
deaf.
enough.
The sentient thing was
Yeah.
annoying enough, yeah. But
Yeah.
I think one of them made you deaf, didn't it? I think at one
The
point.
whistle made Elizora deaf.
The whistle made you deaf.
Yeah.
So each one I wanted to relate it to the kind of the power it gave you.
Yeah.
So the skeletal scimitar, you would slowly become undead the more you used it.
Right.
To the point where after a certain amount of uses, and I think I don't know if you've seen me do this before, but I kind of usually have like a chart in the background. But after a certain amount of uses, you would get to like 100%, and I'd go, right, we've got to change your character sheet to undead now. So we're going to go to your race and change you to undead. This will affect every time you talk to anyone, and especially if you talk to any clerics. But yeah, that was kind of the thing with the scimitar. The egg, I never came up with a specific negative for the egg, but I always thought it would probably be something around like you would kind of have draconic features start to kind of appear, and possibly you'd maybe kind of have like a sort of like a werewolf condition, but dragonish. So you kind of like not like the moon's full, turn into a dragon, but kind of similar-esque, like maybe you get certain aspects, you get hungrier for meat.
I'm a were-dragon.
Like, were-dragon, yeah, like kind of a were-dragon, but like there'll be like certain things that it maybe changes behaviorally rather than anything else. Yeah, the whistle was going deaf. Rubik's globe, sorry, was going blind because it allowed you to see things, and then the crown was an interesting one because I was trying to think, and I think the crown would naturally you would start with a small amount of madness, and then you would gain longer term madness as you used it, and I would pluck probably from like the madness list one or two, and you would maybe get a couple of them or one of them or something along those lines. Because each one was meant to never be used. The trident, I always said to myself, would be like, right, that one's going to be a sentient being, really annoying and really useless. And that was going to be their main thing. Like, they were just going to be a pain in the ass to have, basically. Yes, they could do all this cool shit, but they're a pain in the ass to be around.
That makes sense. Yeah, what about
I mean, you did
the
pull that out.
compass? Yeah,
Good.
you did. Yeah, definitely.
That was the idea.
Yeah, because what else? Compass, the ship, we know the bottle.
So the
Yeah,
compass.
what did the compass do?
The compass had like the whole thing of the compass was like, it was her, it was the wind, it was like the storm, so it had an elemental like in there. You could summon an elemental from it. It also like allowed you to control the wind, control the weather,
Very handy
which
on a boat.
when sailing would be super useful.
Yeah.
But the one thing I sort of had in my head was like, if you summon an elemental a certain amount of times, then maybe you lose control on that time of the elemental. It's as changeable as the wind. It's going to start like acting up, like you ask for the wind in that direction, it does it the opposite way, and like little things that it would do, not so much to like completely impede what you're doing, but maybe just not work as effectively as it was before. The ship, Poseidon's Grace. So Poseidon's Grace is an interesting one. It was captained by Halon Coy, and that was the only captain. The deal with the ship is part of the ship, part of the crew. You would be one with the ship. You can control everything within the ship with your mind. You could submerge yourself into the water. sail wherever you want. You'll always be able to breathe underwater with the ship. I even had a thing of like you can fuse to the ship and become invulnerable for like a certain amount of time. But the problem is, you can't be more than, did I say 500 feet? You can't be more than 500 feet, or it was a mile. I can't remember where I had it. But you can't be more than a certain distance from the ship. Like you can never be
Physically or
too far.
mentally?
Physically.
Okay.
You can't. So if you were to
literally
like
walk that
astral
far and it just stops
project, yeah, if you were to astral project, that'd be right. But you can't physically be more than that from the ship. And on top of that, you would have to be on board the ship at least once a day. You couldn't stay away from it. You couldn't stay over on an island. You'd have to come back to the ship. Which, in certain situations, could become a problem. But again, I kind of wanted all the things to be annoying, but stuff you could probably work around if you wanted to.
It's again, it's like, well, the whole point of sort of artifacts as well is like you want it to be not an endless super weapon, right? You want there sort of to be costs and consequences for using something that's awesome, right? So that it kind of does, yeah, it kind of makes sense. Oh,
Yeah.
hello, Hass.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hello.
I have one which I forgot to add to the document, but it might have been answered already, which is what was your super shortcut, which you told me about, where they could have ended the campaign like straight away?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I can cut to that right now,
Yeah,
as what
Mhm.
my super shortcut was, after getting one artifact, and this would have been the super shortcut, after getting one artifact, all you'd have to do is break it.
The egg?
Well, no.
No, any of the artifacts.
Ah, okay.
Jones couldn't actually break free of her bonds if she wasn't fused back with all of the artifacts initially. So if you literally got the trident, broke it, and I would have been open to interpretation of how you wanted to try break it. Obviously, it wouldn't have been easy, but you could.
Yeah,
have
I mean, like
broken
these are super weapons made
Yeah,
from a
yeah, they're
god's
super
body.
weapons.
Like, how are you gonna break something like that?
Yeah. They're like I'm not saying it would have been.
Throw in a volcano, you know.
Throw in a volcano. God,
Yeah, true.
But like, there's nothing actually in, I don't think, the DMG or like anything in Wizards that said magic items are like hard to break.
It's fair. Yeah.
But yeah,
That's
if
interesting.
you broke one, I may have even stretched it to two if it was like really early on. But if you broke one of the artifacts, she wouldn't have had enough power to break her chains. She would have got close, but she had
Thing
to
is, we would have.
start that ritual
Yeah.
with all of them. Because
But the
otherwise,
thing is,
she
like, we
wasn't
would
going to be
never,
fully
we would
formed.
never have done that because one, we didn't know she was really locked up like that, and like, you can't accidentally break them, and no pirate in their right mind is going to go, this awesome weapon this tool that's going to give me loads of power. Oh, I'm going to go break it.
I guess that's the
So,
defense,
I think it's
though,
one of
isn't
those.
it?
I think it's one of those things where it depends who you've got in the party as well. Because if you just had like a bunch of hogs or type people like that, and I've played games like
But I
that,
don't
then I
think
could definitely
Hogue
see
was-
one of them smashing it.
Nah, no way. No, again, they're not going to be able to like snap it in
something
half.
that made you. I agree. If you had something that like one of the frustrating ones, like the water whistle or the globe, where like it made you blind in a fit of rage, you would be like no, and like you not
Exactly.
necessarily
Yeah, I can see
rational.
that.
Yeah, but
The other
I
thing
can't
is-
see it's like, oh, you're going to smash it on the side of the ship. It's going to crack. I don't really think it's going
Yeah,
to.
No, I
They're
agree.
that fragile.
The
You're gonna dent
the
your
thing
bloody
I'll
ship.
put out to you is, no one really asked any questions about Joneptia, Jones, and the other thing is, if you got the crown earlier on, like if you got the crown in the shanty,
prison.
prison, like I could have flooded so much more information in earlier on, and there would have been a lot more like visions and that kind of thing, and I think the thing there is like, Sonny, like what I've done in Curse of Strahd, when Cameron had the book, there would have been like almost an open communication of, I want to ask this question, what's the answer? Like, there would have been a lot more capability of information retrieval. But the other thing is like, Elizora came in and being like, oh, I know everything about the artifacts, and then you didn't really research them at all. Like, no one went, oh,
We
I
kinda
want to
trusted
learn more about the
Elizora's-
artifacts now.
Yeah, we kind of just trust Elizora's knowledge on all of that. We kind of just assumed like,
Yeah, and Elizora was given a certain amount of knowledge to do her bit. Like, Joneptia didn't go to Elizora and go like,
Yeah.
okay, here's all the details.
yeah.
No, she went,
I
here's
think-
the information you need.
Mm.
There you go.
I mean, the thing is as well, is like, by comparison to the rest of us, Elizora was a scholar.
Mm.
You know, like
And
none of us.
she
We
spent
literally
years
knew
looking
nothing.
for
We
them
knew
and
nothing.
researching them as well.
you
So,
know.
like, there's a reason for that. But
Yeah.
there's plenty of like things, like the Kraken priest, that was on
Tortilla.
Tortilla Island. If you siphoned him for knowledge, you could have learned so much more about the artifacts and so much more about like what they're needed for, what Mother's hoping to do with them, like so much more out of that guy. Like, there's definitely avenues where I would have said you could have got a bit more information and that shortcut would have been a bit more present to you for that reason. But because I came in and I was like, well, look, Cleric wants to destroy all the artifacts. This is how he thinks he needs to do it. Like, he didn't have all the answers either.
Interesting. Yeah, like I said, one of those butterfly effect things. I think. Like, I can see it happening with in a different world, but
Yeah.
very interesting.
I mean, also you can imagine if it's like a really good, like if we all kind of built characters to be pirates and all kind of shady in some way, shape, or form. But if we were all like kind of closer to Grizil, where we're more on the good side of things, you could definitely see it as oh, this is clearly an evil thing. Like we need to find a
It
way
should
to
be
destroy it.
destroyed.
Yeah, so that you can see that you
Yeah.
can see that avenue of going down the. Oh, we won't use
'cause-
it for bad. We'll just try and destroy it.
Yeah.
Through other
I mean,
means
that's the thing.
instead.
Like,
It is
Grazil
the
would never have
evil
done that.
ring.
Grazil would have never done it because he was like a stranger to the world and how it worked. So he would never have done it. But like, yeah, if you were like someone,
Yeah, strong
Yeah,
sense of
yeah.
justice. Like you needed the Krusk. You needed the Krusk in that
Yeah, you
campaign.
needed a Krusk. You
Yeah.
needed the paladin, right?
It is interesting that just I don't know if it was coincidence or what that most of us ended up being kind of sketchy. Like I don't know how
it's
it
a pirate.
happened,
It's a
but-
pirate campaign,
It's a
though.
pirate campaign.
You know,
It's
it's like
a-
how in
yeah,
our
yeah.
Strahd
It's
campaign we
sketchy.
all made evil characters,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you do kind of
That's
make your
true.
character
That's
fit.
the other thing, you know.
you know?
Like in my head, I was like, you know, there is the option, there is the possibility here that they may go, oh, I want all of the artifacts so I can rule the world because they're
If Zyra was here,
pirates.
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry.
yeah.
Going into some of our companions on our ship.
Oh, yeah.
So
Interesting.
Elena had a lot of interest from the hags, the crones, on
Yep.
one of the islands. They actually killed a couple of characters or a couple
Yeah,
of backup.
Bjorn.
Bjorn.
Bjorn was killed.
Rest in peace.
Bjorn.
I liked Bjorn. I was sad he died. But...
Yeah. So what drew those like hags or crones to Elena in that moment?
It's gonna sound really rubbish here, but actually, just weak mind.
Well, this
Easy
was
to
she had memory issues, didn't
manipulate.
she, at this point as well?
Yeah, she was losing her memories. She was weak enough mind to be able to like manipulate back, so they can, you know, do the old hag thing and, you know, feed off her youth and use her for potions and all sorts of fun stuff.
That's fair.
That's fair
Not every
Yeah,
question has to be.
I
not
wish
to
I
be
had a
complicated.
cleverer idea than that, but actually
No, no.
that was pretty
I mean,
much
it's
it. I
legit.
was like,
Yeah,
she's,
yeah.
she's weak-minded. She'd be the one they'd go after. It's probably the best call.
No, that's fair. Absolutely fair. This might, yeah. The other one was he showed his face every now and again, but that vulture guy,
Yeah.
that was just like so sketch. Like, you know, like made Umbra and Tim a run for their money, like how sketched this guy was. Like what was his deal? And like obviously he took some blood. Whose blood did he take? Was it Bloodbeard's blood? He took someone's blood.
He took like
Umbra gave him some blood.
oath
Yeah,
or
it was like
one
the
of the blood
Chosen,
faithful.
wasn't it?
Oh, was that it?
Oh, I forgot
Yeah.
about
What
that
did he?
guy.
What
I
did he
did give
do
him
with?
some blood.
Did he do anything with that blood? What was his plan with that blood?
Oh, this dude, the Vulture dude, he's just a mercenary, man. He's just a straight up mercenary, and literally, he wanted information on you guys to sell to Cleric at that time.
Right.
Like, that was as straight up as it was. And actually, he's the reason that Cleric knew where you were, when you were, because
Right.
he was getting
Huh.
Cleric was getting drip fed some information, but it wasn't like timely accurate, let's say.
So I'm going to bring this. I'm going to attach that to something else then. That's later on. So, because we were under the impression that it was Berry that was feeding him this info,
Hmm
Well,
So,
not
because-
straight up.
but because obviously they were in cahoots. So if it was the Vulture giving him all that info, was Berry was Berry a more recent traitor, or was
Yes.
he always one?
No, Berry was more recent traitor. So, two things. So, what happened to Alarias was that Alarias, way back when, before start of the campaign, was feeding information to Cleric about Bloodbeard and about what Bloodbeard was doing. And the reason Alarias was doing this was because Cleric had Alarias' daughter. When
Right.
suddenly Alarias went silent for so long, Cleric realized he needed other means. So he started thinking about what he could do. After he got the blood vials and the scry ability on your ship, he was looking around for someone else to target, noticed the little relationship between Berry and Elena brewing, and then what he basically did was, when you were on the wreckage, he took the time to threaten the shit out of Berry and basically say, while we're on the same side, I need to know that I've got you. So here's the deal.
Right.
I won't touch her because I'll do whatever I need to do to deal with this. And I won't touch her as long as you keep drip feeding me information when I ask. And for a while he didn't ask, but then there was a delay. Then, when the artifact went missing, Jones mentioned that to Krelig. And Krelig then went, right, Berry, tell me everything. Where are you? What's going on? And that's when, that was the point where Berry was like, that's why he came in so sheepishly to ask you how many, artifacts we've got left and what's going on. Because he was like,
Right.
got to
Gotcha.
feed back this information or my girlfriend might die.
Did they
'Cause-
ever become a thing?
This is the thing, Krelig, yes, they did. It wasn't like I wasn't pronouncing it because they didn't want it pronounced. It was kind of just like a subtle thing on the side, and you'll. I think if you watch back, you'd see there's a couple of things like he death warded her before she left for the Hag Island. Like there's
Oh,
a
yeah,
couple
there was a lot.
moments like when
Yeah,
she
yeah.
gets her memory back, she says Berry, runs straight to Berry. Like there's a few things, but yeah, because Berry is shit scared of Krelig. Like he killed Bloodbeard. It was Berry's dad. Berry thought nothing could kill Bloodbeard, but he did. So shit scared of Krelig. So when he says, "Oh, I'll leave her alone as long as you do this for me," he's like, "Okay, fine."
Mixing things up once again.
Keep
You
on your
could,
toes.
Keep on your toes. Well, we can touch on a bit of Zorro, for a bit of fun, shall we?
Yeah, let's
So,
go.
so we found out when we went to Kojima that Zorro was born on a blood moon and killed his mother by being a werewolf. And basically was then almost a pariah of the island because of that.
So yeah, not a werewolf, but like a demon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thing. Yeah.
the main questions we've got to start with are whose idea was it?
Whose idea was it?
To start with, whose idea was it for that to be a factor of Zorro?
Right. I've got Zoro's backstory right here from Hass initially. And
Ooh, I guess you guys haven't heard this before, have you?
I was going to say, Hass, if it's okay, I'm just going to say, I'm not going to go into all of it, but I'm just going to put in the first paragraph, and this is where the inspiration started.
Yeah.
Zorro never knew who his father was, and his mother died during childbirth. During the final days of her pregnancy, his mother was attacked and killed by a demon. Luckily, the villagers on the small island managed to save the baby, but unbeknownst to anyone, even Zorro, a remnant of the demon's essence, tinged the baby and bonded with it, and it still remains there within Zorro's soul. But who or what it wants, nobody knows. So that inspired me to go, well, fuck, let's drive that home.
Wow.
That really was like the main kicker for me. After that, I mean, in all honesty, I don't know how much you remember about Zorro, but I don't know if you brought him far enough for me to go.
Sorry, far enough for you to go what? I missed the last bit.
I'm like, I don't know how much like we discussed Zorro past that point. Like we sort of said, well, he has blackouts.
Mm.
Like that's the start of it, and I said to you, "Are you okay with that? Because I'm just going to put you in the middle of somewhere, and you won't know how you got there." And you're like,
Middle
"Yeah,
of the ocean with Johnny.
Yeah.
like the ocean."
Yeah. To be honest, yeah, I don't think we spoke about it too much, and sometimes the way I make characters is kind of the way I DM. Well, I just have a bunch of like open plot threads, which I don't know where they're going to go. I'm just happy for anyone to run with them. But I mean, I liked what you did both with Zorro and Umbra. To be honest, I liked Zorro. I just didn't like Fighter. I think that was what kind of put me off him because I found the actual class like kind of boring. So yeah, it was a bit of a shame actually because it would have been kind of cool, and it would have been a very different dynamic if I'd kept Zorro because Umbra is obviously a very different character.
I kind of had planned for you like a character arc of like separating you from the demon.
Okay. That would have been interesting.
Having Zorro and the demon be separated, and then you kind of have to face that demon, whether it's just by you or with everyone.
Yeah. That would have been interesting.
I mean, Benshima in itself would have been wildly different if Zorro was there. Especially everything that had happened as well.
Yeah. But yeah, it was the only time I've ever played Fighter, and I was just like, it's not for me.
I'm not into it. Yeah,
that's fair.
It's fine. You're not having fun with it. It's always worth changing. It's a shame. It's quite interesting though, because actually I had Elena dying initially at the hands of Hiaris Tsuro after teaching Zorro how to hold the blade in his mouth and fight with three blades. And then after she died, she'd be like, don't face him now, face him when you're ready. And use my technique, keep my legend on kind of thing. But yeah, I had Elena dying like way earlier.
That's interesting.
Basically being that for Zorro.
Butterfly effect again.
Yeah, butterfly effect again. It was quite interesting. But yeah, so I after that kind of initial thing, I sort of said to Hass, how relaxed are you with me like fumbling around with this? And he said, yeah, do it. So I was like, great. So instead of the demon attacking his mother, instead there was like a ritual on the island. Locker essentially trying to get the Starcreep pistol, knowing it was on the island, but the island having this like general protection. It's been weakening over time, and the idea was when the demons got in there to take over bodies and to slowly take down any kind of protection whatsoever and find the pistol. So fortunately, Zorro's mother was just a casualty of that, and the ritual to create another demon in that space. because it takes, takes a sacrifice of some kind. Just made a baby. That baby was sorry. I also had a thing of like Zorro going to Krelig's side. Don't know if you remember this back at the beginning.
I thought
He's
he
the
got
one that turns.
brainwashed or
Yeah,
something, but I can't
he's the
remember.
one that
Yeah.
turns you in, and the reason for that is that Krelig is aware of your demon issue,
Ah.
thanks to his other person on the other side, as Elizora used to like to say.
Friend on the
Um,
other side.
That's thanks to the friend on the other side. And speaking to the demon, sort of knowing what it wanted, because at that point there was a little flicker for Zorro. I kind of had like a what you don't see when the boat goes sailing off is at some point Zorro's going to snap and he's going to start attacking everyone on board. And so, sensing this was going to happen, I think probably communicated through like a message. But then on like a deeper level, I think there was like an astral projection that kind of talked to the demon inside your head.
Okay.
And so, yeah, Zorro was mind controlled from there on out, completely zombified. However,
That's a shame.
eventually, Zorro did die at the hands of Krelig because the demon was a little unruly for Krelig's liking. After Krelig got what he wanted, he did kill Zorro and the demon.
Was it a tough fight at least?
Yes. Oh god. Yeah, it was a tough fight
Nice.
actually. I
That's
mean,
good
not so much for Krelig.
Okay.
Kind of picture Zorro's first fight with the greatest swordsman on the
Hawkeye.
seas. And
Oh
that's
man,
kind of,
not that bad.
kind
Come on, man.
I mean,
Mihawk, sorry, Mihawk. Yeah.
apart from Mihawk, yeah. So not the tiny dagger, his rapier, but still, like,
I mean,
It's like
considering
one
what
step
he was
from
when we were fighting with him, yeah, I can. Yeah,
I remember
Yeah.
his first appearance like quite well.
yeah,
Krelig,
he's yeah. There's no
Yeah.
way.
brutal.
All right. Well, that answers the other one. We were going to ask what happened to Zorro, but that sort of answered that. I mean, this was a big question for us at the time. Johnny Four Fingers. So, how in the world did he become half frog?
Johnny Four Fingers.
Yeah, and like, how did he escape the Toad Father? Like, was he injected with frog cells or something? Like, what?
Right. So here's the thing. So the Toad Father, obviously, the race itself, they're not particularly terrifying, are they?
No.
So how do you become a mafia boss of a general area known as a criminal organization, probably amongst most of the world? And that is because their tribe or their ancestors had a particular secret, and that was they could create slards, enslaved slards that they then used as their assassins. Now, becoming a slard is a horrific experience. Johnny, as the ultimate punishment for dodging the Toad Father a few times, was essentially poisoned every day by different species? Yes, different species of that race, which I completely forgotten now off the top of my head. But through this like prolonged torturous experience, they begin to change into the Slard. And it always has to start with like a human or an elf or whatever host to then become the Slard. While changing Johnny, because he has a fierce attitude and probably got his mind a little bit warped by the torture and a fierce want for revenge, used his new slimy form to slide out of his shackles, and before the full ritual could be complete where he would then be enslaved as an assassin, he escaped. And then while in Slard form, that's why he was kind of half and half, because he wasn't fully formed yet. And in his escape, he then took another creature, which was kind of their like sniffer dog, but like this giant toad, right? And it would be able to find any creature. And he took that creature and used it to go find you guys.
Poor
He was a
Grazil, man.
little bit behind, but he did get there.
Yeah. Poor Grazil. Didn't deserve it. That's fair
Had
enough.
to be done.
He wanted Kethra most, but when she was gone, Grazil was the next best thing. Stood by, let that decision be made. No one
Yeah.
came back for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, was there a way really for us to avoid that?
Yes.
No, but once we brought, cause obviously, if you assume all the way up to Johnny being in the door, and then being like, it's Johnny or whatever, like, was there an actual legitimate route out of, aside from us not either massively angering the criminal organization when we were basically still finding our feet, or just that kind of thing? Was there a way around it, or even rescuing him at some point? Was that actually a feasibility?
Yeah, so you 100% you could have rescued him. So actually, pretty much the minute you left, he would have been held up in that region of the ocean, and you could have probably at night or anything snuck back and got him out. Also, that would have probably pissed off the organization. Saying no to any one of the Toadfather's family would probably annoy him, but it wouldn't be anything that would have been like, right, hunt them down. It would have just been more like, oh, I remember you. You had the balls to say no to me. And there would possibly be a small amount of respect. It depends on how it's taken at the time, but there would possibly be a small amount of respect, also a small amount of animosity. But yeah, it was the fact that, like, after what Johnny's done to the Toadfather, him and Tiff were an even distribution at that stage. But if you were to say, no, we're keeping Johnny and leaving Tiff, then that would have been agreed as well. Like, Tiff would have come at a certain price. If you said, no, we're keeping Johnny, they would have still had a price. It may have been a bit higher because you've got Johnny now, but there would have been a price, definitely. It may have been a job to, like, help out on, or a heist or something, but
Yeah, I think that was
Oh,
what the deal was. Is that I think that's one of the funny bits about it was that we had agreed the deal for Tiff, and they wanted to leave like a slime mark or something on Kethra initially, but
Yeah.
because of shenanigans, the Kethra didn't want the mark, so we decided Johnny was the best person to get the mark instead. Because then, if we wanted to get rid of him, we could.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I guess that's the.
That escalated quickly. That's the
did,
thing. That one.
yes,
That we
that's
did.
the thing.
I think
escalates
if we had
quickly.
known, I think we would have picked someone else. But we just had no idea, right? Until
No, I know. And, like, Johnny had no idea the Toadfather was there either, or
Yeah, I don't think we
anyone from the
mentioned it to
Toadfather's
him.
family was there.
no. So yeah, that was. Yeah, we got into a situation very quickly. We couldn't really get out of.
You know, it was one of those, like, oh no, everything's falling.
Yeah. We'll skip over those.
So I guess one of the big questions is that we never really addressed massively in the epilogue, but what actually happens to the fleet now that Crescent is no longer there to steer the ship, as it were?
So there is a war dog that supplants him, and they will break the treaty that Crescent came up with because they hate pirates, and it will become kind of a war again for a little bit. But they are kind of the stupid kind of angry, and I foresee a certain amount of outsmarting from the pirates, even though Crescent has whittled down quite a lot of numbers and taken out some council members. I think still as a group, the pirates will be able to take back a lot of the seas and kind of beat the fleet back down. I imagine they probably die at the hands of Vaela or someone, at some point. My eventual hope, or eventual possibility, is that the fleet kind of go from having a commodore to instead having like a parliament, but as they currently see pirates as a threat, they will continue to have a commodore for that reason. But the guy after the war dog is a lot nicer. It's a lot more like we'll work on our defenses rather than being attack.
Yeah. So I'm curious about this one. Is when we were getting the water whistle in the on the dragon turtle. You had this sort of giant down a hole.
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't even fit through the hole. We kind of thought he was there to protect it, but then he was sealed. And then the dragon was there. It was very confusing as to whether what is the giant there to defend it? If it is, why was it and the dragon under the hole that was sealed up?
This is an interesting story. So everything on top of the dragon turtle is from like centuries and centuries ago, way before flood even happened. And the skeleton is an undead dragon which attempted to rule the world even further centuries ago, but they could never kill him because he's undead. And for that reason, they bound him somewhere. And then, when the whistle came up, they said, well, it's the perfect guardian, they'll never die. So they chained them there. However, they were so scared of that evil creature being released, they put a guardian with them underneath. So the giant was there to keep the dragon in check, and the dragon was there to protect the whistle.
Right. So the giant is basically the ball for other ball
The
and
ball
chain.
of the chain, yes, exactly.
Wow. What a ball.
Yeah.
That's pretty nuts.
Yeah. Now the giant volunteered, but they accepted that their life would be very different.
Because didn't it try and attack Tim when he fell down the hole?
It
Oh.
reached for Tim, it never attacked him.
Yeah, reach. Yeah, that's fair.
An interesting conundrum we had with Roger Reginald in his ship form, and I mean we were given an answer, or at least a clue how to release him, but obviously we never did in the campaign, and I'm assuming in the epilogue it was figured out. So how did he get released? How would it?
None of you said in your epilogue you released him.
Vaela would have done.
bad.
She would have spent all that
assumed.
time. I mean, she became immortal, right? So that she would have, done that at some point.
There's no way. I don't think there's any way Reginald would have been like, "Yeah, I'm happy to be a ship forever."
I mean, Vaela will keep up with her promises to the best of her ability. So, she did say she would do it. So she would at least at some point do it.
That's fair. So the cryptic stuff. Pause for intermission.
Actually, while you're doing that, Matt can answer this question. How did Elizora always know what was happening on the ship? Now, because Vaela always knew because of Roger, but I'm like Elizora seemed to always know what was said.
Elizora knew even before we were on Reginald's ship.
So how did she do that? Because the bird's not going to do it. Yeah, but that's what we want to know. What are these shenanigans?
I think if we harken back to the Ascendant Lands, where it was basically like it was one of those things that was just never questioned. I never questioned Thoradin's gold. You never questioned Elizora's ability to find stuff out.
Right.
Because I think it was one of those things. To start off with, when Elizora first got on the ship, she tried to endear herself to a lot of the crew. So she was always chatting and interacting with the crew a lot, and that's why. And even with the overthrowing the mutiny of Grizil, she led that because her hawk had seen Grizil mop up the sick and stuff. So she had basically she had ears and gossip everywhere about everything. So it may not have always been she heard it directly, but there's always somewhat. It's like if you're in a house, you'll hear people you can't not hear anything. You can't not hear something. And with the combination of gossip, of just her knowing, the hawk seeing, someone's gone into this room. She knows, here's a good spot just to linger, as the hawk or as herself, to listen in on the juicy stuff. It's always there, always knows. So, it's not like you can't not have windows and stuff on or portholes.
Yeah. No, just curious if there was some weird mystic means or something, but no. It's just
just
spy network
shenanigans. Yeah,
Network.
Yeah.
Network and bird.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So there is a blurb in the diary. I can't remember if I read it to you or not. But the blurb in the diary is what his condition is. In spectral chains, forever yoked, the vessel's grasp and broken cloaked, seek not the sea nor distant shore, but traverse realms where echoes roar. When vessel's heart and yours align, the binding roar in darkness twine. Through shadows dance and moonlight's gleam, reclaim the helm and dream your dream. Now, there is an isle in the shape of a moon, a crescent moon. Now there, it's completely populated only by animals. So, echoes roar, and in the moonlight, there would be a portal that would open up to the ethereal realm. There, you could have gone in with the ship and separated him from his bindings, and then come out with Roger and the ship.
I reckon we would have gotten that information out of Alarias' timekeeper abilities.
Oh, he would have easily helped out with
It
his
was in
magic.
you
and
have
his
it in the
knowledge, yeah.
diary.
Yeah, but that's too cryptic. Vaela's not going to get her head around that. She's going, what is this?
Yeah,
Who's doing this poetry?
Alarias wouldn't even need to use his abilities, he would have figured it out.
yeah.
That's
He
fair.
knows Roger. He
Yeah.
would have figured it out.
I just imagine Vaela would be leaning on his timekeeper abilities so much after they reunited.
I'd be like your Google.
Literally.
It's like, I
Yeah.
can ask you this, can
Yeah.
ask you that.
Yeah,
Okay,
literally.
with Cleric. So obviously, there's two parts to this question. The first one being, how long did he survive in the prison before Genepti actually killed him, and what would have happened if he was saved instead of left behind?
Oh, interesting. So, first off, he lasted quite a while. He survived quite a while. He even attempted to get the madman out, but because the madman is mad, found that very difficult, and it ended up failing. But unfortunately, Credit did die. If you got him out and you got him back, you would have been paraded through the towns in fleet as heroes, and he would essentially abolish every bounty ever on pirates, and he would ask for an everlasting truce and treaty with you and the Pirate Council for everyone to live free. He would then start organising a parliament.
Interesting. That almost probably be a better ending, potentially.
His entire purpose was to stop Jones the minute he knew of her plans. While he loved the sea and loved her in a way, he did not agree with what she was doing, and did not agree with what she was going to do, and knew for duty in protecting his people, he had to claim power to use it. And in regards to like killing Bloodbeard, that was just pure vendetta he needed to fulfill because he left them for dead. So
Heard the legend before. It's like, okay, now I can be good. And
yeah. Well, don't worry about all that other stuff I did, but I'm good now. Yeah.
he's a means to an end kind of guy. So
yeah, definitely.
Once he's done it, he's good. He's okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he definitely gave off that near the sort of end part of that. Right, we've got a couple of questions regarding to the madman. So obviously we were umming and ahhing about whether we would take him with us
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, after we got the hint that we need to say his name, obviously we took him with us. But if we had left him on the ship and then said his name, would anything have happened? Assuming we could have, I guess. Well, even if we had the means to, I don't know if we had sending or anything, but anyway, well, just generally, like if we just shouted out into the ether.
So the dude's literally called the Meddler. He could have been anywhere. No one had said his name. No one had ever spoken it aloud. It is the speaking of his name in a way that is calling him that
Like
he listens
Beetlejuice.
to. Yeah, it's Beetlejuice. Like you're. It's the intent and the words.
Right. So even if he was on the ship, he would have just popped in and then
He would
done
have.
what he did.
Yeah, I would have been like, what you don't see is from the ship. Happens.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he would have still been left there. Like that is, he would have. It would have been
He
a
would still
one-way
be
trip
trapped
for
in
him.
Yeah. So on the back of that, then you sort of mentioned it. There's like, obviously he was called the Meddler. Why was he called the Meddler?
Timekeepers aren't meant to change anything.
Oh,
does- if it-
because he got involved with us, he was meddling in that sense.
Mm.
Yeah, because there was this whole thing about like he's mad in the past because of what he did
Now,
now.
exactly.
Yeah,
This is his only moment of clarity
yeah. Gotcha.
because that's when he's at clarity enough to make the choice that deserves his punishment. Timekeepers aren't meant to meddle with anything if it's not ineffectual to like the time streams of the universe. Like the whole point is they are guardians, they are watchers almost. They should not involve themselves.
Puts Alarias in a very interesting position because technically he's kind of got like timekeeper abilities, but he's not like one of them yet.
Yeah, he's kind of like an honorary timekeeper.
Yeah, but he's just
Yeah.
like seeing
He
the
still can't
future.
meddle on time, but he gets information on time.
So, obviously, with being a open world, where we could we were the masters of our destiny and our destinations,
Terrible decision. Yep, you're on.
which I mean, it had plenty of good moments and times. But obviously, that meant you had prepared places and things that we could have gone, but in some areas we didn't go. So, were there, or what areas did you want us to have gone, but never did? So I remember we almost went to like the dwarf island at one point, and I know Marikal was like talked about a lot, and we were like, we just never went.
Get there
Like
eventually. We'll get
there
there
was
eventually.
we never entertained, and because everything was like south, and it
Yeah.
was so far north. So obviously there might be some of them, but so what locations did you want us to visit, and what about them made you want us to visit them?
Marikal, like, has some really great stuff in it. There's a temple in Marikal that's like really, like, I think Avatar, the Legend of Aang with like the Earth City, with them like riding up rocks and slides and all that kind of thing. Like it's very much like that, and that is kind of where Vaela's sort of from. Vaela's probably not from that exactly, that temple, but her people, like there's angels there, and Solnar, like true belief in Solnar is kind of there, and there's like monks beyond monks and elements, and it's great, like a really cool visual I had in my brain that I never kind of like properly fleshed out. The other place in Marikal is in the north, in the mountains. That's where Tree Lifter was from. Like the Goliath people are all up there. Like that's a really cool place that I had in mind. As well as that, you would have met in Marikal Mary Flanagan's father, which was a really minor thing, but it was such a little such a little Easter egg for me, just to put that in there, up there. That was a little fun thing in the back of my brain. But yeah, the other thing was the Dwarven Colony. I would have loved you to go to the Dwarven Colony. I'd like proper like smiths and cave systems, and there was like there was like a stop in like manufacturing, and this is where all pirates were getting their stuff from, because otherwise you were going to fleet basically. And there was a complete halt in manufacturing because there was a massive bug infestation down inside the mines, and they needed someone to clear it out, and that would have been you guys. So that was a cool one, but never happened. But to be honest, the other thing is like Fleet. Like if you went to like, there was like the slums of Fleet, which had a few like really interesting characters in there, which I really liked. And that was a cool one. But they'll pop up at some point, I'm sure.
That's the thing with NPCs, you can just use them somewhere else.
Yeah, it'd be fun. I probably would have created new ones by then, but yeah.
That's fair. Which brings me on to the next question. Were there any characters, you might not want to answer this if you're going to do this and do that, but were there any characters you had sort of prepared but we never really like got introduced to, like you really wanted us to meet?
Ferris Fiddleheart. Ferris Fiddleheart was a great character. He's in the slums of Fleet, and he has a sister called that I nicknamed the Mute Seer. And by sister, they're all orphans. And in fact, the slums of Fleet is where Umbra's from.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that would have been really interesting. But Ferris Fiddleheart was a bard, and he had a golden fiddle, which he won in a bet with the devil. And that was his whole backstory. Was just that basically. He managed to beat the devil at fiddling. That was the whole joke. It was great. But
Wow.
generally he was just such like a light, upbeat character. It would have been great to show you guys that. And also the Mute Seer came with like such potential because she would just draw all her visions. And I was going to do kind of like a tarot card reading, but with her.
I think that's all the questions we're going to get to for you in the time. So we thought sort of what we'd sort of end with is for each of us, and it'll be you as well, to sort of talk about what our sort of favourite part or moment of the campaign was. I mean, for me, it was, and this is what I kind of say to people when I mention about this campaign, is like, I played a campaign where my backup character mutinied to take the captaincy away from my main character. Like, that is ridiculous. The fact that my backup became my main character because of a mutiny. Like, it's just amazing. I didn't, never thought that was going to happen. I just assumed Griziel would die. So like when obviously the Toad Father got him, like that maybe would have been the time that Vaela would have then, tried to take over at that point. But yeah, the way that happened.
It's very piratey as well to have like a mutiny as how you switch characters.
Yeah, which is fine, but which is funny. But the fact that she didn't even instigate it, she didn't instigate the mutiny. Like, it was obviously Elizora that and everyone else that was doing it. But it's just the fact that my backup took over. Like, if someone else is, that would have made more sense. But yeah, I'm mutinying against myself as a player.
It's quite funny. Yeah.
And trying to have those two argue against each other was like, it's quite entertaining. So that was definitely mine. Dan, do you want to go next?
yeah. I think for me, thinking back, I think when Alarias got the memory potion, and he unlocked all of his past and all the backstory, I think that was a big moment for me because it kind of opened up the campaign as a player, and it was a cool moment, like big payoff, and to find out all this stuff and kind of yeah.
I mean, so many stars had to align for that to happen as well.
Yeah, and it was fun making the potion, and there's like funny moments with Umbra and Tim shenanigans. But yeah, selfishly for me, the memory potion was a cool moment.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was good.
Welcome.
All right, Mass.
Oh, you go first, Matt.
Sure. I think one of the most memorable moments I've got is the end of the first season. Really sticks with me when we basically had the whole like few sessions where we were doing shenanigans at the wreckage, and we knew we were like wrapping up to the end of the season, and then we had that visual, that massive cliffhanger of essentially what felt like the entirety of the fleet I get like turn up at the wreckage, and it's like that. Oh shit! Like this is gonna like what can happen next coming up? Like, is it gonna be like a huge fight? It's like, and it's just that you feel that moment of we're kind of fucked here.
Yeah, we're gonna have an all-out war between like fleet and
Like,
pirates.
yeah, absolutely. What is going to happen next? And this is like the whole wreckage was really fun being able to just interact with a lot of the different different pirate captains and just play with just a different environment than just like necessarily always just in having to not having is probably but like being just only interacting with our crew, but having that spread of actually we've got so many more NPCs to handle with. Like Tim got into so much shit with people because he was trying to like get food and was pissing people off, or trying to recruit other crew members and pissing people off, other captains off. And so yeah, I think just that whole like wreckage environment was really fun. And then yeah, that's that last memorable moment of just before we moved off to be like, shit, this how are we going to survive until the beginning of next season? Like, what's going to happen next? So,
Yeah,
that was a good moment.
I really like that moment.
All right, just me. See, obviously I wasn't around for a lot of the campaign, but yeah, probably it's got to be, I think, Umbra and just Tim's general shenanigans on the ship. It was just, it's just really funny, just messing with the crew, the whole creepy like lair thing that Umbra had going on, and obviously Arthur's voice for that. I can't remember what it was now. It was the door knocker or
Doorknob.
something. Yeah.
Doorknob.
Every time they touch the door, we accept donations.
Hey, there we go. So yeah, it was just funny. There's like lots of random little things of Artificer which are just good for RP. So and I feel like when Umbra first came on the ship, him and Tim were just like really crazy. Like I think they got reined back in a bit later, but yeah, the early days were pretty wild for sure.
Early days were nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
They needed reining in, 100%.
Yeah. So I don't even know how like Umbra and Tim got together, to be honest, because I guess on paper they're not like that similar, but yeah, they just ended up.
Well, they both
Doing
have
it.
like the fascination with like bodies in a way, right? Because
Yeah.
he's like grave domain, right, or something.
Yeah,
Or
maybe it was
death domain.
that.
It's one of those, like, you know. So like you both have this thing around the dead.
Yeah, I mean, it might be interesting to go back to like the first session they met and just maybe it was just that like he was the doctor, so they ended up like talking, you know.
Yeah.
And then there was the whole Joylift thing where like Umbra did kind of like just decide to go along with it, so that obviously was a big thing as well. The cult.
Yeah.
But my one slight regret from the campaign, because this is what I would have done if I'd stayed, is I really wanted Umbra and Tim to basically end up just taking over with the cult and just doing like crazy shit with it. And I felt like we could have pulled it off because we were kind of getting momentum, but yeah, it didn't happen.
I mean, as a
Yeah.
caveat to that, you
Yeah, that
were
was
doing
always
well,
really
and
hard
then
against you as well.
yeah, I was gonna say then it started going downhill, and Tim gave a sermon and lost a lot in that.
Oh,
one sermon. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, man, if Umbra was still there, you know, I think we could have built it out
Yeah,
and taken over.
we'll
But
control them.
yeah. He would have come up with some kind of brain surgery or something for like Joylift followers.
Oh my god.
But yeah, it was good fun. I enjoyed it.
So I think for me, all those moments are really great, and I loved like all the different things you guys came up with in certain situations. I really enjoyed just those moments you guys like. I had no plans for anyone to start a mutiny. I had no plans for Umbra to poison fucking food on someone else's
Oh
ship.
god, yeah.
That was funny as well, actually. I forgot about that.
I think yeah, my favorite parts are definitely all the unexpected. I had no plans for any of that to happen, but I loved it every minute of it. Like those are my favorite moments. And voicing Brimmy. Brimmy was one of my favorite characters ever. I love Brimmy. Just pop it in and out wherever he likes. He's great.
Very good.
Yeah, how do you feel after the campaign's over? What was it, like 2 years in the end? Two and a bit?
God, long. Yeah, good long. I feel like I definitely should have started smaller. This was not wise for a first campaign. I should have narrowed myself a little bit. thanks very much for watching. Toodaloo.